So what we did is we've been really trying to do blue skies. I mean, I'm going to go through the presentation. I just want to give you everyone a preview. This is our second Who's at the Table. And part of my challenge as the DEI, to chair the DEI committee, is that I've been going around the states and visiting different places. And one of the things I was really concerned about is oftentimes, especially in a lot of historically marginalized communities, we're kind of behind and we're not really, doesn't have, it's just behind. And so we wanted to try to deal with blue skies. We know June 1st hurricane season is coming, and we really want to try to do everything we can to give people the resources, access to certain things, information, because we know they always say, I didn't know. And it happens every time, especially in Eastern North Carolina. We really know it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. We know the question is, when is a hurricane going to come? So we know that. And so what I've been trying to do, the last meeting was a very good meeting. We actually came out of it. We had a group to join, Pender Long-Term Recovery, Reverend Geo Simpson there, they joined. When we joined, they gave us access to all of our resources. We were able to provide some donation of some supplies they need down there. Good folk that's down in Pender County. It really opens the doors for them so that you can have access to it. And so we've really been I've been really just trying to get as much information out, and talk to people. Our meetings are not, it's all about information and sharing. And so we're now in the whole issue of housing and recovery and mitigation. And we thought that I was so thankful. I saw Laura Hogshead down in New Bern, and I thought she spoke really well. I thought she handled the issues there. I mean, obviously the people are upset about certain things. I mean, we can't deal with that. But I thought that her intent was very good in terms of talking about it. Whether or not you like it or not, she was there. And we're thankful for her to come down and talk about that. And I thought that was very good. And so I asked her at that time, would she come, and she agreed. And then we had, of course, Brother Spade was there as well. And I had the chance to see him again, and he said he would come. And then, of course, the goal is to get the right people here, right? So we're not just trying to, we want all the people we invite, but that's not it. It's the goal is to get the right people to help us deal with this. And then so he sent us Brother Aaron Gaskins, who was the area director in that area. And we just thought that was a wonderful opportunity that we would have. So with that said, if everyone would just drop your name in the chat, that'll be cool. And that way we can know. And then if I need to get you some more information, we do have stuff, but typically I don't send out all the stuff to people because half the time some people do come and then some people don't. So we want to make sure that those who come, what's going on here is okay. All right, so we're gonna, let me see, go here. All right, so I'm gonna go back to my presentation. All right, NCVOAD Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee. This is Who's at the Table. It's a roundtable discussion. And we want to just tell you a little bit about DEI. I'm sure some of you know, but the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee is a committee of the North Carolina Volunteer Organizations Active in Disasters. And I am Reverend Roland Whitley. I'm the chair. I'm the executive director for community technical assistance and an AME pastor. And that doesn't say AME Zion, it says AME. There's nothing wrong with my AME Zion brothers and sisters, but I am an AME dude. By the way, we're the oldest continuously operated African-American denomination in America. And I co-chair is Gihan Ahmed, and she was our IRUSA. And our goal here is to develop recommendations to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout all aspects of North Carolina VOAD activities. And we also really take heart to heart the 4 C's, which are cooperation, which I'm thankful for each of you, communication, coordination, and collaboration. We believe that there's nothing we do doesn't include all 4 of these, and we're excited to have you here as a result of that. Who's at the table this morning? We have, very thankful, we have the North Carolina Department of Public Safety, Office of Recovery and Resiliency, Ms. Laura Hogshead, Chief Operating Officer. We have the United States Department of Agriculture. Rural Development, and Gaskins, the area director. And we also like to, at our roundtable, we like to offer a group that's not among emergency management or not in state government to the table. And at the time, Baptist on Missions, Charity Rebuild Center, Tammy Weeks, who was a financial manager. They have a beautiful facility down in Duplin County. We invited her, but they had to leave. They're over in, where they at, Gio? What did she's at? She's over where? Armenia. Is it Armenia? You're on mute.
Armenia.
Armenia, I'm sorry, yeah. So they left, they had to go to Armenia. But we like to bring them in because a lot of the things we know is dealing with housing, and they're doing a wonderful job down there in terms of going in and having volunteers come in and go work in different homes and trying to put things together. Ultimately, we believe that, so they would have been here to kind of have a conversation about what they were doing. It's all about connecting people. And so every one of the presenters here today received 4 questions. And the questions are to really start conversation and have them talk more about their organization. And each question, as you can see, I won't read all of them, but ultimately we're trying to focus mostly on Eastern North Carolina. At the end of the day, people who, everybody who's dealing with this issue, we know that when a disaster happens, it's the worst thing that possibly could happen. Your homes are destroyed, your life is disrupted. Everything that you thought that wouldn't happen, happened. And so we just think that right now our goal is to try to save some lives way ahead of time. And so they had 4 questions. I asked them the format. So those who are on the call today, who came in, if you what's your name and emails in the chat, what we would do is send you out those questions that we had that they answered, and so forth. And we asked them to speak to the questions because they can use it as a guide, but they can do whatever whatever the spirit leads them to do. So we're okay with that. And so here we are. We had the roundtable discussion. Do y'all like my image? I like it. Do y'all like it? It's round. I like it. And so here we are. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I thought only appropriate to have the Office of Recovery and Resiliency, Sister Laura Hogshead, to open up and have her begin discussions, if that's okay with you, and then followed by Aaron Gaskins, if that's okay with you as well. Okay, the floor is yours.
Certainly, Reverend Whitley. Would you like me to go through the 4 questions? Okay, so I think most of you are familiar with NCVOAD, but we are a little bit of a strange animal in state government. So I want to make sure we go back to the basics a little bit and talk about what we can do and what we can't do. So we were set up after Hurricane Florence because the state was going to receive a very large allocation from the Department of Housing and Urban Development for Hurricane Florence, and it had already received a fairly large allocation for Hurricane Matthew that frankly wasn't going so well, right? So we're all friends here. We're going to tell the truth. I'm going to be completely transparent. The Hurricane Matthew money wasn't going that well, and 22 months later, we got hit by another storm. We had 50% of our Hurricane Matthew applicants were also impacted by Hurricane Florence, and so the governor and the legislature recognized that we needed to do something different. So they set up our office because the state at that point had not received this kind of funding since 2004. This is HUD funding, not FEMA funding. And the state just didn't have the infrastructure for spending it. So our office was set up. I do think it's important to continue to say this is federal money, right? It's not easy money to spend. There are a lot of hurdles. And so our office's job is to get people over those hurdles. We are currently open for applications for either Hurricane Matthew or Florence survivors. So if you received damage from either one of those storms, we are open and accepting applications even today. For a long time during COVID, our rebuild centers were closed out of precaution, not wanting to spread any of the virus, but now they are open again by appointment. So our Eastern North Carolinians can make appointments at one of their 18 rebuild centers, the ones closest to them. They can come in, they can talk to a case manager, they can fill out an application, they can get their questions answered. And they can always call our call center as well and get their questions answered. Most of our applications come in online, but we know that doesn't work for everyone. So we were anxious to get those centers opened back up so that you can come in and talk to a human, because this is a very human process. Sharing all of your data giving all of your information to a state official and waiting for the construction to happen is a very, very personal thing. We are in people's homes and there's nothing more personal than that. So we wanted to open those centers up again. They are now open. And I want to emphasize that we still do have money and we are still working through the folks that have applied to us. So we have about 5,000 applicants right now, 5,000 active applicants that we are working through. Certainly the pandemic has made that much more challenging. The housing crisis has made that more challenging. It is difficult to get lumber. It's difficult to get the workforce to work on these homes. So you all know the frustrations. You hear them as much as I do, if not more. And I want to emphasize that we're joined today by Alexandria Anderson, who helps us handle all of those inquiries and complaints, and Jamie Fuquay, who also helps us to shepherd that through. But all I want to say is we're learning, right? We're still learning and we're still listening and we're still evolving. So what we're hoping to do over the next couple of days, really, but couple of months probably to effectuate, is to continue to streamline everything we can streamline. We have to take a step back and recognize that at this point, after the disaster, after Florence, after Matthew, these are long-term recovery grants. They are 6-year grants, but they are for folks that have not recovered. They are for the folks who haven't found another means to recover. So the folks for whom FEMA didn't do enough, SBA wasn't the right solution, the folks that didn't have private insurance, the people who are the most marginalized, that is who this funding is targeted to. So in fact, we have to spend 70% of our funds at least on people who make below 80% of area median income. And I can tell you from our applicant pool, we're not going to have a problem meeting that mark. Almost everyone that comes to us is low income. And that means we have to work a little harder to help them get access to their documents, help them get what they need to make it through this federal process. I don't know about you. I probably could not come up with all of the documentation that we ask for in a day, right? I couldn't put my hands on all those pieces of paper. If I had been flooded once or twice, it would be even harder to get my hands on those pieces of paper. So what we need to do is to do a lot of case management, a lot of hand holding, and help make the process make sense for folks who don't deal in federal acronyms all day, every day. So I've spent a lot of time on question one. I apologize, I'm getting carried away a little bit here. But you've also asked me, we primarily are doing reconstruction and repair on people's homes. That's primarily the way that we are involved in hurricane recovery. And unfortunately, I appreciate very much that we're having this blue sky conversation. We don't ever know when we're going to get this money, even if a hurricane comes. So for Dorian or Isaias, we didn't get HUD funding. It has to rise to a certain level where Congress says we're going to appropriate funding for this disaster. So we don't get funding like this for every storm, but we do get it for the major ones. And so what we can do to prepare, if there was to be another storm this summer, is getting information out to our folks that if they receive more damage, how they can incorporate that into their current process. Because HUD does recognize that this being a 6-year grant process, you're probably going to get hit again before you fully recover. And so what we need to do, and what we're working on right now, is to make sure that applicants have information about what happens if you get hit again, because that doesn't necessarily put you back at step one. It doesn't put you back at get another inspection, let's start this all over again. HUD does have a mechanism for speeding that up and kind of meeting people where they are. Like, okay, you had Matthew damage, you had Florence damage. We're not going to try to figure out which shingle fell off during Matthew and which shingle fell off during Florence. We're just going to take it as a whole project. And so that's the information that we are working to pull together now so that folks don't feel like if they get hit a third time, that they go back to square one, because they don't. So our best offense right now is information. And that's what I'm hoping to hear from you all about what would be helpful. If there are other ways that we can be helpful, please don't be shy about that, because we are in a period of reevaluation right now. We are insourcing all of our contracts. We are bringing all of our case management in-house. So instead of using case managers that are contracted, we're using state employees. And we think that that's going to provide more consistency. Frankly, that's been a problem, is various case managers giving different answers. I think it'll provide more consistency. I think it'll provide more accountability for folks. If you are a state employee charged with moving these files along, it means more to you than if you're a contractor who's here one day, maybe not as committed to the mission. So we are bringing all of that in-house, but I am very anxious to hear from you all what would be useful for you and the folks that you work with from my office. So I'll stop there because I feel like I'm talking a lot.
That's great. I mean, I don't know if anyone had questions because I have a couple that we've got that I've got emailed to me. One was I guess there's a question here. Somebody said, "What do you mean?" So I want to make sure when you say, "What do you mean when you say streamline the process and streamlining?" I guess they want to know. Can you go through that a little bit?
Yeah, certainly. It's a great question. So there's what HUD wants us to do, which is enough, which is hard enough. And then there's maybe what an A+ effort would look like, right? Like there's what HUD wants you to do, and then what is the A+ way to do every single step of these 8 steps. What I've asked my team to do, and what we are going through very systematically right now, is the only thing I want to be A+ is our customer service. I don't need a gold star from HUD on this process. I need them to say you were compliant, right? We need to be compliant, and compliance is always important. But I don't need, if HUD wants one form of documentation, I don't need 2. And I think over the years, in an abundance of caution, some case managers, some staff felt like more was better. More is not better when you're dealing with someone who's having a hard time coming up with that one form of ID, right? So if HUD only wants one form of ID, we're only asking for one form of ID. If HUD wants this piece of paper, we're not asking for that piece of paper. So when I say streamlining, I mean going through our processes, going through our steps, and making sure that we are not asking for one single thing more than we need to get this person through the process. Does that help?
Okay. Yeah, that helps a lot. Does that help, Reverend Simpson? Okay. Yes, he said yes.
Yes, it does.
We have a hand up. We have Risa Willis. Her hand is up from BHO. Go ahead, Risa.
Hey, Laura, it's always good to see you, and thank you for all that you do for the state of North Carolina. I'm concerned. Two reasons. One is that this is HUD money, and I've not seen you reach out to the HUD-approved housing counseling agencies that are already in these communities providing housing counseling services. We were there since Hurricane Floyd, and we're still here. And although, I have worked with several of your case managers, Stacy and all those, we don't get any funding to do that. But you do have a lot of funding to hire case managers and to do those things, but you're still sending people to our offices, but because they don't know how to access your services electronically, they have trouble getting their paperwork together. And that's what HUD-approved housing counselors do. And so I'm asking the question, what are you going to do to partner with the community-based organizations that are already in these communities and will be here through the next 6 years, no matter how many storms come? The ones that are designated as disasters and the ones that are not designated as disasters. And have you investigated supporting those housing counseling agencies that are in these communities and that will continue to provide services, whether the state is there or not? Thank you.
Can we give her a chance to answer one of them? Because there was a lot of good questions. I just want to make sure she has the chance to answer the questions. Okay, go ahead.
So Risa always asks good questions. And Risa, you've asked me this before. So after we talked in New Bern a couple of months ago, I have charged my staff with going back to see how we can better support the HUD-approved housing counseling agencies. HUD has to approve our activities. And so we are in conversation about how to best coordinate with you all. I will say this funding is not easy, right? And when there are a lot of strings. So one example, Risa, is we have to account for our time hour by hour. I don't think you have to do that for HUD, but we have to do that for HUD. So we have to report back to HUD. On Monday from 9 to 10 a.m. I worked on this. From 10 to 11 a.m. I worked on that. From 11 to 12 I worked on this.
Wow.
That level of paperwork has been daunting for many of the organizations that we do work with. If it's something you all are willing to take on, let's continue to talk about that. But I have asked my staff to evaluate what would be the easiest way to partner. And we are partnering with some housing counseling agencies to do housing counseling for folks that might be in a position to take a buyout and move that funding to a safer location, to move physically to a home that's not in a floodplain. And we are working with some housing counseling agencies to partner on that effort. But more to come, Risa, and I promise I have not forgotten your question.
Yeah, and Laura, again, I appreciate you and I appreciate you looking into that. And so let's talk offline, because we do have to account for our time hour by hour.
Okay.
We have a CRM that forces us to do that. And so let's talk offline, and we can show you how we keep up with our time, because we have the same HUD restrictions. So, and I appreciate you looking into that. Thank you so much, Reverend Whitley.
That's good to know, Risa. So thank you. That is one of the crazier things that we have to do with this grant, but good to know that you have to do it too.
Excellent, excellent. So I have a few. One of the things I've got a ton of emails on is the mold and mildew that may have been building up in people's homes. Yep. And how do they deal with that? You know, obviously it's from, you know, some of the homes have been boarded up for a while now because they, like you, I thought that was a major point. You said the private insurance, they just didn't have it. And, you know, with all the stuff. So how do they deal with, is that still a part of the process of addressing the mold and mildew?
Yes, sir. That's a good question. So actually what we sign with the homeowner when we sign an award and we say we're going to do work on your home, and this is maybe something that is not as well understood, so I'm grateful for the chance to talk about it. When we go into your home, because it is federal funding and we cannot take federal funding into your home and leave your home unsafe, we will fix what we find. So if that's mold, if that's mildew, doesn't matter if it's related to the storm, if there's bad wiring, if there's a structural issue that maybe had nothing to do with the storm, we will still fix it. So the short answer is yes, we will address the mold and mildew once we go into that home. I don't want folks to feel like that has to be a separate process, but it often does lengthen the amount of time that we are in that home. So if we go into a home and the homeowner says, the only thing that's messed up is my kitchen floor, but we go in and we see a structural issue, we see bad wiring, we see that the roof needs redone, we see all kinds of mold and mildew, we see asbestos, we see lead. We have to fix all of that, which is of course going to make it a longer project. And that's frustrating. I know, for you to think all I wanted was my kitchen floor and they came in and did the whole daggone thing, or worst case scenario, determined that it wasn't safe to live in, and now they have to do the whole house. That you will end up safer and stronger, but it is a frustrating process. But we will address the mold and mildew except on personal property. So if your couch, if your clothes, if other personal property is infested with mold and mildew, we can't touch that, but we can fix the structure.
So excuse me. So when does that process happen? So let's say that you went in right after the storm and you were able to identify that obviously there may not have been any mold and mildew at that time. It was just, but the process took a little longer for you to get there. But at the time when you went in, there wasn't mold and mildew. Do you go back? Do they still, I mean, when you get in there, you come back, does that, just the process?
Yeah, and so I think that's one of the things that folks worry about that I wish they wouldn't worry about. If right after the storm, someone goes in and does a damage assessment, whether that person is from FEMA or from another agency, they go and do a damage assessment. By the time we walk in with a general contractor, that damage assessment is not reliable anymore. And so we go in and do a new assessment of what needs to be done, and we handle all of it through change orders. So folks spend a lot of time arguing about, well, in 2017, the damage assessment didn't see this problem. It doesn't matter. When we walk in with a general contractor, we're going to fix it. We're going to handle it through change orders. So I don't want people to get hung up on what FEMA saw in 2017 or what FEMA saw in 2018, because the situation is different in 2022. We understand that.
Thank you. I have one other question. I have one question, and then I want to be respectful of everyone's time because Aaron's probably going to have 45 minutes to talk, right, Aaron? But excuse my voice, y'all. I diagnosed myself with the self-kit. I have COVID, so I'm home. So I only positive yesterday. So I'm just getting through it, but this is so important. So I'm here with us. The question reads, do you see anything coming out of the pandemic that will impact timelines for the process positively? COVID-19 slowed things greatly. Do you expect things to go faster for our clients now?
In some respects, yes. In some respects, no. So in terms of streamlining, and I think the federal government has come to a better understanding of the impact of COVID and the flexibility that they needed to provide. So for example, our office ran the HOPE program, and the federal government allowed us to do all kinds of flexible things in the HOPE program, including having people self-attest to their income, right? So they did it once. We're pushing them to do it again. They showed that they can be flexible, and we're trying to take advantage of all of those flexibilities moving forward. The thing that is not speeding up, and I'll just be really frank about it, is getting contractors. Getting enough workforce to work on these homes is not easing. The lead time on lumber, the exorbitant pricing on windows and doors, that kind of stuff, the factories have not caught up, and the workforce is just not there right now. So I would welcome any suggestions you all have on how we can better outreach to potential small general contractors that would like to get into this program, because frankly, we just need more.
Thank you for that. That's excellent. Reverend Simpson has raised his hand because Pendant Long-Term Recovery Group is connecting in that area, so I'm sure he's willing to help. Last one, and that is, we're getting hands popping up now. All right, we're gonna go ahead and go. Okay, come on, Christy.
I just have a question, Laura. So I know you guys struggle with getting contractors. Is that something that LTRGs can help with? So like we have our own construction program. We have a construction supervisor. We repair homes all the time. We have Partners Baptist and Habitat that also help that. So is there any way that LTRGs can help with that in any way?
Potentially, yes. And I'd love to talk more about that, because we've had a pre-qualified general contractor list for the entire time that we've existed. I think we now need to look beyond that pre-qualified list, because it just keeps shrinking. There is just too much work in the private sector for folks to want to do the extra paperwork that it takes to deal with these funds. But you all understand that, right? The LTRGs already know about the extra paperwork. You're familiar. So I think there's a really great opportunity to partner there, and I'll reach out to see if we can figure out how to brainstorm on that.
I'll put my email and phone number in the chat if you can reach out to me.
Perfect.
Yeah, and if there's a way that you for people to reach out to you, to connect you with contractors, if you want to, I think that's Byron has this. I'm gonna mute you, Byron. If there's any way that you have that you want them to connect with you about connecting with contractors, or maybe if there's someone that you want to do, if you put in the chat, and then people can grab that, that would help you.
Certainly.
Okay. I'm sorry, Laura.
Yes, they can reach out to me and I'll connect you to the right person. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Laura, please don't leave. I do have a question that's going to help for both of you. So I want to hear what Aaron, you're up.
Sorry, I was trying to get it off of mute. Good morning. Thank you so much for having us today. So I'm Aaron Gaskins. I work with USDA Rural Development. Our main office, which is our state office, is located in Raleigh. And then we have offices throughout the state. And I work in the eastern part of North Carolina. Our main office that I oversee is Kinston. And I also have like a sub office, which is Greenville. And we oversee 17 counties. I'm not going to sit here and try to name them, because I know that I will miss them. I will miss some of them, but primarily the counties that surround the Kinston area and the Greenville area are in our jurisdiction. I have the 4 questions. I'll tell you a little bit about USDA, and we'll talk a little bit about disaster funding and how that works with our agency. So we have a variety of different programs with rural development. The ones that I primarily oversee are single family housing related. Maybe some of you are familiar with our 504 repair program. I think that in this discussion that we're having today, I'll talk a little bit more about that as it relates to, being prepared for hurricanes or whatever. And So the 504 repair program, in this program, what I want to say too is that our programs exist regardless of whether there's a disaster or not. When it comes to disasters, it's not really a local thing. We really depend heavily on our national office out of Washington, D.C. To provide that direction, and whether or not there's going to be, if they're going to provide additional funding in the programs that we have, such as disaster funding. Generally, if there is a disaster, any repairs or, would just fall under our regular allocation of monies. But we really wait on the guidance from them to say, hey, we're allocating, or you just never know when a pot of federal money is going to open up. But for the most part, we rely on our regular allocation of monies. So being that we're federal, our fiscal year runs from October 1st to September 30th. And there are times like in the beginning of the fiscal year where we're waiting for a continuing resolution or for a budget to be passed. We'll operate under those continuing resolutions until a budget is passed. But our 504 repair program is probably the program that would most help people who have been affected by a disaster. Reverend Whitley, I sent that information over to you, those flyers that I sent, those fact sheets about the two different programs that I wanted to speak on this morning that I thought really would be, of most interest, I guess. But with the 504 repair program, so the requirements, basically the person has to own and occupy the home. They have to provide proof of ownership, generally would be a deed. And there's all sorts of things that we can do with the repairs. Really anything, roof, floors, windows, doors. You pretty much name it. We have, participated in funding those repairs. So it's the maximum that we can loan. I think recently all of this has changed. It used to be we could do up to $20,000. We can actually now go up to 40. But these loans, it's a 1% interest rate spread over a term of 20 years. You get into some more specific type things depending on the amounts that you go over. Do we have to take a deed of trust? Do we have to bring in an attorney to do the closing? Those types of things. So what we have done in the past is tried to keep the amounts below the threshold. And I think it's somewhere around $7,500. If we keep the loan below $7,500, then we're not required to take a deed of trust. And so just to use that number as an example, let's say a person takes out a $7,500 loan, you're looking at about $34 a month, $35 a month. If the applicant is 62 years of age or older, there's possibility of qualifying for grant monies. And again, this has changed. It used to be that the maximum grant was $7,500. That has recently increased to $10,000. So really, you could have a person that comes in and qualifies, for a loan and a grant. They could get a $10,000 grant, a $7,500 loan, and that gives them close to $18,000 worth of monies that could be available to them for repairs to their home. And again, it can even increase from there. It just depends. A lot of the time, this program is designed to assist very low income families. The income guidelines are set that way. Many times we work with elderly households. A lot of elderly people do not want you taking a deed of trust against their house. I certainly understand that. So we try to work within those constraints. But again, really, in terms of repairs, there's not much that we can't do. What we do is when the application comes in and we review it, the applicant is actually responsible for selecting a contractor, obtaining the bids to the property. The contractor, whoever they select, would come out, provide them a bid for whatever repairs need to be done to the home. and then they provide that to our office for review. So in some ways, we're kind of like a bank. We're not involved in the work. The contract is between the contractor and the borrower or the applicant. We're not involved other than, overseeing the money portion of it. And so that is kind of a brief overview of the 504 program. All of our programs are income driven, and that's whether it's under single family housing, or we have so many programs. We have community type facility programs. We have water and sewer, where we do water and sewer systems for public bodies and towns and whatnot. But like I said, I primarily oversee those single family housing programs out of that Kinston office and out of the Greenville office. So as far as when it comes to disaster funding, again, we rely on the national office to tell us whether or not there's going to be money available. I have seen times where there was disaster funding provided, and then I have seen times when, let's use a hurricane, for example. Our hurricane comes through and our regular allocation of money is such that disaster funding is not provided, like an additional pot of money. So we really await that guidance from the national office to tell us what that's going to look like. One of the questions was, what resources should Eastern North Carolina community be preparing ahead of a disaster? And my response to that is, I think meetings like this are really good in outreach. A lot of people do not know about USDA. They do not know where we are located. And so I think having meetings like this, outreach in the communities, so that they know who we are and where we are and how to reach out to us. I think that that's very important. The other program that I'm just going to touch briefly on, and this might be, if in a situation, maybe someone loses their house completely and it can't be replaced or it can't be repaired. We have our 502 direct program. This is a housing loan. And again, it's based on income, based on credit. I think the maximum loan amount now is somewhere around $285,000. It might be a little bit more. That interest rate right now, I think, is somewhere around 3%. It's a 33-year term instead of a conventional term of 30 years. It just spreads it out a little bit longer. This is a subsidized program. So what that means is, based on a person's income, like I said, the interest rate being 3%, it can be as low as 1%. And it's really, the idea is to help a person get into their first home with an affordable payment. Some of that subsidy at some point in time has to be repaid, and there's several different ways to handle that. And this can be used, this program can be used, they can purchase an existing home, they can purchase a new home, they can use the monies as a construction loan to build a home. I was trying to think, we do manufactured homes. The only thing with manufactured homes, we only do a 30-year term on those. It has to be from an approved dealer, a dealer that's been approved by the agency. We can do modular homes, which are basically considered a stick-built home. So there's a variety of things that we can do with that program in assisting either first-time home buyers, or, like in this case, if someone lost their home and they were interested. Now, it is a loan, so this is not a grant. This is a loan. And so, it just depends on each person's situation and what they want to do. Really, anyone is welcome to apply. I think they just have to be 18 years of age or older. On that 502 direct program, there's not a grant portion. On the 504, the repair program, the grant portion could be available if the only requirement there is they have to be 62 years of age or older. So that's kind of a brief overview of those two programs. I don't know if you want more information or if there's questions. Certainly be glad to answer any. It's kind of a really brief overview of what programs we have available in single family housing under USDA rural development.
It's excellent. Does anyone have any questions of Aaron? Good clarity. 502 and 504 programs.
I'll ask a question.
Okay.
Hi, Aaron. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank the Office of Dr. Space for sending you. We really appreciate you. My question has to do with do you have anything that, you gave us a lot. Do you have anything that would make it easier for us or our clients to kind of grasp the scope of what you guys offer and the nuances of that?
Sure.
Where I can go. Yeah, go ahead.
What I could do, I could do it this way, Reverend Whitley, the information that I sent to you, we could send out to all parties. Those fact sheets, I think are very good to have. They kind of detail out the program and the requirements, like a little bit more detail probably than, I'm sure that I even forgot some of the information. I think having those fact sheets would be very helpful.
What I want to do is, if I don't normally send that out because our email goes out to a ton of people, and typically the people who come on, it's who I send that write up to. So if everyone wants that write up for both speakers today, if you just would be so kind and just make sure you put the right name and put your name and email in the chat. And I will certainly send it out to everyone because they did send the information over with that. And that'd be good thing if that's okay. That way you don't have to send it out, and we can just send it out to folks. Anyone else have any questions? I think I don't hear anything. So your programs are loans. It could be a grant depending on age. I think you're right. I don't think most people think of USDA as in the housing business. I just don't think we think you guys in the housing business. So that's always a good thing. One of the things I have a question is, and I've gotten a ton of responses on this, and as I will bring this up, the churches. A lot of our churches are out here and, still suffering because of the mold and mildew damage that they've had. I know most of the things we've talked about have now been residential properties. I get it. I understand. But is there any thought or anything that could go where a church facility that has been impacted because of COVID, just for instance, many of our churches are closed for at least 2 years. And now you go back in the church and there's mold and mildew all over the place. It's not just on furniture. You can see it growing on the wall. You can see it growing on the ceiling. And it's a problem. So is there any talk about that? If obviously it's from the pandemic, it's not necessarily from the storm, but it's from the pandemic. If anything, is there any relief there? And this is not just to one of y'all, but if any of y'all, any of our speakers had a question, you would want to take that. I know if it's not in your wheelhouse, it's cool. It just that was something that I'm getting emails on a lot to talk about today, if we could.
I don't have a definitive answer here, but I will say that emergency management is in a lot of conversations about that need. And so that might be if you need a resource over there, that might be a good place to get a comprehensive view of what's available.
Okay. If you would send us that, if you can email me
Absolutely.
that way I can get that to them and maybe we can bring them in on the conversation because it is a major issue. Folk are, so that would be great. Gio, I saw you had your hand up.
Yes, I was in the process of typing it, but I'll speak it to Aaron. Aaron, you talked about that you guys had money to help municipalities and towns with infrastructure. How does that relate to communities as well? Let's say like my area here, not a lot of infrastructure in 75% of our county where people are suffering, and one of the roadblocks is handling that to be able to have new construction on the dry land where not many people have ever lived that much before, in close proximity. So I guess I don't want to take a lot of your time. We can connect after, but that's my question. The nuances of that, not only municipalities or counties or whatever, but what about communities and helping with infrastructure and water and getting it to those places so we can build subdivisions, or maybe you guys could help with subdivisions in areas where people need a place to live.
Tell me again, what county is that?
Pender County.
Pender County. Okay, so Pender County actually is not one of the counties that are serviced out of the Kinston area office. That county is actually serviced by the Lumberton area office. Larry Sampson is the area director for that office. I do not have his telephone number right in front of me. Actually, if you give me a second, I can get it. But he would actually be the person to speak to. Bear with me just a moment. So the municipality would actually be, and bear with me here, I'm gonna get you his number. Let me give you his telephone number so you can call him. It's 910-887-3748. So Larry's the area director for the Lumberton area office, which would handle Pender County. The municipality in that area, and I'm not familiar with that area, but like in my area, let's say, well, that's a bad example. There's some areas we can't go in because of population. I was going to say City of Kinston, but City of Kinston, believe it or not, we're not able to do things but let's just use that as an example. Just say the town or the city, whatever it would be. They would be the one that would be the applicant because it has to be a public body or a municipality. And then, they would have to have a need. Typically, they bring in engineers or architects. It depends on whether it's like a building or it's going to be infrastructure in the ground. It just depends on which they use. So yeah, they have to be the ones to make the application. But Larry would really be the one to speak with about Pender County. He could probably guide you a little bit better. He works directly, or did for a while, work directly in the community facilities program. He has a couple of people in his office that actually work in the water and sewer program, which are like water and sewer lines. But again, the town has to be the one to apply.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We have one other hand up, and that's Yvonne Adams.
Hi, Aaron. Just a quick question. Is there like a list or something that you can email us out or access online somewhere that we can know who to contact and who's involved or who's over those specific counties, so we'll know where we need to go if we have a county that we need to reach out for? I know you're Eastern North Carolina, but just where we would need to go for other counties that we might come across.
Yeah, let me, I'll have to do a little bit of research. I'm sure there is a map of the state that has the offices and the telephone numbers where those offices are located so that you could reach out. I'll have to do a little bit of research. What I can do is that if I can locate that information, I can send it over to Reverend Whitley. If you want to include that out to the participants today. But yeah, I'll see what I can find. There should be one.
Excellent. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Adams. You want to say something else?
No, I was just saying thank you.
All right. You're welcome. So we're ahead of schedule. Only less than 5 minutes away. So I feel really good. I just want to say again, I am so excited about this particular roundtable discussion because I think that ultimately we all trying to save lives, and we know that if a person can't live in their home, it's a very difficult challenge. And we're just thankful that y'all will come on and share the resources that could be available to folk and really not try to sugarcoat. I thought Laura was right. She said, I'm not sugarcoating, I'm just going to tell you what it is. And sometimes we just need to hear that. I don't think that it's always difficult because, it's just difficult. And I think the more we know, the better we are. And to be put in the right places where we can do some stuff. So I have some homework assignments that I have for everyone. It's just simply click on the button. We're going to drop a link in the chat. We just need to know how we did. If there's something you think we need to add in, if there's somebody else you want to talk in, if he can put that in the chat. and we'll put that in chat. You guys can kind of click on the survey now that we hear everyone. Then also just mark your calendar on on July the 20th. We'll come back again and meet again and meet and talk again with the DI committee. Obviously June 1st is a hurricane season, kicks off, so we could meet sooner, but right now we have July the 20th as the date that we would do that. And then we would just go from there based on what's going on out here. But again, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to come on. Those who are in the chat, if you want the information, again, I'm only sending it out to the people who came, and that's just so we don't, you know, if you came, you get it. If you don't, you can just email me and I send it to you later. But it'll be, I'm excited. Boy, what a day. So my body is shutting down, and I'm gonna have to go lay down now. Again, if y'all don't know, I did get test positive for COVID, but I didn't feel real good today, but it was only worth it to come here and to be with y'all this morning. So yeah, I am sweating over here. So I am gonna say to everyone, thank you very much. Alexandra, I didn't get a chance to hear from you today. But if you want to send me some stuff email wise, I think you got my email. I'll put it in the chat if you don't. And then we could talk a little bit about what it is, because after time, Flicks just don't know who to get in contact with. And it's so frustrating to feel like you go in a queue and you just don't get the right people. So anyway, in NCVOAD, I got to thank my other board members, Reverend Jared Pearson and Sister Ann Huffman for coming on. We also looking for many groups who are willing to join NCVOAD. It's my pitch today. I've learned a lot from volunteerism and how important it is that people do care, and people out on the field, they really are trying to give whatever they can give to help people. And if we can really rally around the volunteers that we have to really help people to do things that will help us out. So join NCVOAD. It's a part of helping us. And it's only a small application, but really excited about it. So thank y'all for coming. And yes, I'm gonna rest. Thank you, rest. And thank you very much. So I'm really excited today. Is that if anyone have praying for quick healing? Yes. Now I called my church. I said I put in that chat. I said pray for Pastor, because I need some help right now. Pray for me. And when they prayed for me, and I believe they got broke through. So that's it. They put a hand this way, heal me. Okay. So we are all on schedule. It's only an hour. And I thank you. Unless Laura has anything else or Aaron has anything else you guys want to close with, we're gonna let everyone go.
I was chatting this, but it's easier to say. I would recommend that y'all talk to DEQ, and I can send you the right person to talk to at DEQ about the enormous amount of water and sewer funding that was given to them by the infrastructure bill. And they have had one round of applications, but they're opening up a second round of applications in July. So I think probably your next meeting is a good time to talk to CJ Jordan or whoever he recommends. I can send you his information, Reverend Whitley. So that he can talk you through how to access. It's about $1 billion, so it's nothing to sneeze at.
Excellent. If you send that to me, we'll bring him in and have him talk about what monies he have.
Right.
And that's great. Thank you. Email me that. Anyone else? Aaron, you have anything you want to leave with?
No, I just appreciate you letting us be here today. And we'll join you again. Just let us know. Okay.
All right. So thank everyone again, and tell Brother Spate we really appreciate him for what he did and helping us to be accessible to the people of North Carolina. Thank y'all. Have a blessed day. Y'all want to come off and say bye to everybody? Say bye to everybody. Just say bye. That's just me. Y'all don't pay me no mind. I'm just saying bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Oh my gosh. That's the only bye they may get for the rest of the day. Anyway, Gio, you and Reverend Pearson can hang on for a second, that'd be cool. And finish it up and stop this recording.